Good morning again, everyone, and welcome back to Future Forum. We are talking agriculture this morning. We are talking about feeding the future. This session needs no introduction because we all know, or we should at least know, how important agriculture is to the future of us as human beings, to the future of Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm going to go straight into introducing this fantastic panel that we have today. Our moderator this morning is Mr. Alpha Senon. Alpha, the Y-Farm man, the Agri-Farm man, really a superhero in our eyes, leading the agriculture revolution, bringing back the culture of agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago. Alpha is the founder of Y-Farm. We help youth farm, and a fantastic person in this agriculture sphere. We're really grateful for Alpha's support in our recent home gardening project, as well at the Heroes Foundation, where he shared so much of his insights and expertise to help our young people, our youth participants, start some really cool, innovative home gardens. On the call, we have our youth participants, Hadara and Caleb. Now, Hadara is 16 years old, and she's really passionate about creating a better future. And Caleb is really a proud citizen who would like his country to live up to its fullest potential. We have Christian Youngsing. Now, Christian, correct me please if I do not pronounce this correctly, but it is Epilimnion Aquaculture Limited, and Christian is finding new innovative ways to improve agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm going to put a plug in here for the crisp arugula, baby arugula. It is homegrown right here in Trinidad and Tobago using aquaculture. It's my favorite product of all time, my favorite green leafy vegetable, and we can get it right here. Kristen can tell us more about that on today's panel. This man needs absolutely no introduction. This is Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, one of my personal heroes in agriculture, because he and the Ministry of Agriculture lent tremendous support to our home gardening initiative. They provided seeds, they provided plants, and they've been a great support for guidance and information for young people to get involved in the agriculture sector. So we're going to hear from the minister himself, who's taken the time to join us to be part of this discussion. We have Rhea King Julian. Now, her passion for meaningful connections evolved over time, facilitating the development of service-based NGO to bridge the gap between funding sources, local and international, and community-based projects around agriculture to really effectively address the needs on Trinidad, of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, we have Bernardo Fabrega from Digicel, Digital Solution Architect Manager for the Caribbean and Central America, back with us to talk about how technology can be leveraged in agriculture. So, it is my absolute pleasure to pass you over to Mr. Alpha Senon, who is going to lead us today in this agriculture session. Alpha, the digital space is all yours.
All right. Thanks a lot, Lawrence. Pleasant good morning to everyone, my fellow panelists. It's a pleasure to be the one assisting and moderating this session today. And special good morning to all the viewers, all the participants, and all those who would eventually see this live broadcast. So this morning we're talking about the future of agriculture. And, if we're talking the future of agriculture, the Y-O-U-T-H word, the youth, has to be a major focus in this morning's session. And for those of you all who may not be that familiar with my work, I will just quickly share a little insight into what I do. And then, I'm still a youth, but I'm getting up there in age, and then pass you over to the youths of today's forum, right? At Y-Farm, I'm the founder of Y-Farm, and we created different engagement campaigns to ensure that our younger generation are the ones to not only feed us, but to nourish us. And something I would like to place some emphasis on today as well. I know we're talking about feeding the future, but at times we tend to study about feeding when it comes to quantity and not necessarily quality of the food. So the word nourish encompasses, the quantity and the quality. So, as we always say, we can't have food security without food and nutrition security, right? And we must consume foods that not only fill us, but also fulfills us. So we created Agriman and Photosynthesis, the world's first and only food and nutrition security superheroes that has global engagement campaigns. We partner with many organizations, and we say that we pioneer agricultural, educational entertainment. We cannot leave out the children. We cannot wait until university to teach the children about food and nutrition security. We cannot wait until we get a PhD to learn about climate change adaptability. These are things affecting us now, and we must create sustainable solutions to take us into the future. And as I always say, we are living in the future because yesterday already went and we reached it today. So we are living in the future. So no longer is the future 50 years to come. The future is literally tomorrow, right? So in setting the stage for this morning's discussion, I want us to look into what is that role of the youth. How much support does the youth have? What does the youth need? What does the youth want? How excited can we make agriculture again for the youth to ensure that we really create the sector that they want? How do we look into agriculture as a profession? Because we always talk about youths not interested in this and youth not interested in that. But what do we need for them to be interested in it? I mean, I always say that is a myth, because I feel every young person I talk to, they're interested. So maybe I'm talking to the wrong young people, but in reality, creating agriculture as this profession that everyone, not everyone of course, but at least a good majority of people see that the sector, they could, they go and study it, secondary school, university, they go out and get a job or create a job, and it's very active, instead of, because a lot of my colleagues, for example, that graduated from the University of the West Indies with me at the Faculty of Food and Agriculture, a large majority of them, they are not working in the sector. They're working in other banking institutions and doing insurance. So why go through all that knowledge, all that time, and getting a degree to then go and do something else? But right. So my point is, and then of course we'll dive a little bit into the digital age as well too. How do we see agriculture and technology merging with each other? And people like to say that hydroponics is the way forward. And I like to say it's one of the way forward, and we had to merge, the heritage, the legacy, the traditional agriculture to the digital agriculture. So I'm not going to say no more right now. I just want to kind of set the stage. Of course, our fellow participants, our fellow speakers, will come with all their own perspective, and we're making this an open platform so that people could really lend their expertise into. We might agree, we might disagree, might agree to agree, disagree to agree, you name it. But let's open up the forum and let's, really create something dynamic coming out of this, right? So once again, it's definitely a pleasure for me to be the one to moderate this session. And I hope that everyone would really come out with something that is beneficial to them, that could change the way they see agriculture and so and how they can move forward. Maybe if you are a young entrepreneur tuning into this session, and how you can benefit your country via assisting in us achieving food and nutrition security. I think that's the number one goal. All right. So without further ado, I wanna hear what the youth have to say. So at this point, our fellow youth participants, Hadara and Caleb, I believe we would be showing a video of their speech. So take it over to them.
Trinidad and Tobago has the potential to strongly diversify the economy through investments in agriculture.
Farmers and the often forgotten fishermen can help our country in so many ways, but improvements need to be made so that everyone can benefit.
The government has grants in place to encourage people to join the farming industry, and even all current farmers. However, there needs to be more grants encouraging people to join the fishing sector.
If people are more educated on aspects of the fishing industry and the opportunities that can be found there, then there would be more fishermen in Trinidad and Tobago. As an island, seafood is part of our local delicacies like crab and dumpling, fish broth, and bacon shark. We need to put back into an industry that gives us so much.
Do you know what predial larceny is? It is the theft of agricultural produce. Farmers deserve better protection. The increase in fines by 200% was a good step to increase deterrence. However, without the proper equipment and funding being handed over to the predial larceny unit, this would be futile. The time has come to use CCTV and watch the farms 24/7 from a command center, dispatching personnel to any untoward activity.
There can also be a system in place for farmers and fishermen to connect with each other. Through this, they would be able to share information, give tips, and ask for advice on any challenges that they experience.
The Ministry of Agriculture does well hosting campaigns on farming and plant clinics to educate members of the public on same. However, the participation is quite low. Perhaps these programs can be incorporated into schools or in more community-centered systems. Perhaps with housing finance and with the allocation of HGC houses. We can build on the current seed distribution scheme to encourage homeowners to start their own personal gardens so they can have ready access to homegrown produce.
Informing youths about farming at an early age will inspire them to create or assist their parents in their own home garden. This would be helpful to families that have tight budgets, especially since they won't have to spend as much on food. This venture will encourage healthy eating practices.
Have any of you ever been to the markets? Our markets need to be upgraded. They are too crowded and unsanitary. Who wants to buy fresh produce in a dirty setting? Not me.
Could you imagine that our market producers, meat vendors, and even fisher folks don't have the proper facilities to keep up with the constant consumer demand? Occurrences such as these are vividly seen on the weekends.
Oh my goodness, our markets really need upgrading. Don't even get me started on the dilapidated conditions our fishermen are forced to work under. If they're lucky, wooden shacks and even just at the side of the road are what they're left with. Our fishermen should be provided with the necessary facilities for work. We need to do our best to protect our fisherfolk because too many of them are risking their lives and aren't sure to return. Some go out alive and never return.
I hope that Trinidad and Tobago will explore the option of growing exotic fruits. The world has greatly modified technology and found new methods of growing produce. For example, grafting your fruits, using aquaponics or hydroponic systems in your greenhouse. Information about new technology can be found online, but there can also be an exotic fruits course hosted by the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, so they can learn different ways of growing exotic fruits in our climates. This would lessen our need to import fruits and instead use this to our advantage to export produce to our Caribbean neighbors.
Wow, that would be great for our country. With all this progress, we would also be able to regulate the prices of produce found in the groceries and markets so that persons pay the same price anywhere they go.
The agriculture sector can be great with the right investments. Food security is a goal any country will want to strive for. We would use our resources to an advantage so we can achieve it.
Wow. I am blown away. I am wondering if we have any need to continue this forum right now, because I feel like if those young people just gave us all the solutions to some of the biggest problems that we have going on in the sector. So I say bravo, bravo, bravo. Our tomorrow, our future is definitely in good hands, and all we need to do is give these young people the little push and the resources to make some of these things happen. They are the leaders. So I'm impressed and I'm blown away, right? So at this time, I want to dive into the meat of the matter. I would say, or continue, because they kind of dive into it plenty there already. I want to introduce none other than Senator the Honorable Clarence Rembrandt to I don't know, maybe give some response and give some insight into what those young people just shared with us, and take us into the future, Senator. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Very happy to be here, and thanks for your invitation. We've been talking on the theme of future, and I like how Alpha introduced us to the concept of present, because I wanna split the presentation into two parts. One in terms of what's happening presently, and what I call the future of food. So the reality is this, and I listened to what the young persons have had to say. Alpha, you're right. They've struck all the key points, and I would add some reality to what has been said. The thing about food is that historically we've always had challenges to produce food and feed ourselves, going back to ancient time. It's always been a battle for food, and the main reason is because food is alive and living, and it is subject to a wide variety of factors. Weather is one, and now we see greater prominence, or a lot more discussion on climate change, particularly in the US, which had taken a position on climate change under the Trump administration, and is set to make a more important contribution under the Biden administration. But the reality is also that it's not just weather, it's a number of factors. And let me just give you a quick overview. For example, we've not seen it as yet, but coffee prices have doubled in the last year, and it's simply on account of the fact that Brazil supplies the in-demand Arabica beans to the world. 40% of Arabica beans comes out of Brazil, and the area where the beans are cultivated, coffee is cultivated, Arabica, has been hit by cold weather. The frost has affected as much as 80% of the cultivation. On the other side, in Brazil, where we have the non-Arabica beans, we've seen production being hit by heat. And if you're in a country as large as Brazil, you know that you would be affected by the 4 different seasons in one day. So that is on the coffee side. In terms of pork, the world's largest pork producer, China, has been hit by floods in the areas where the pork producers are predominant. In Europe, we've had floods that has affected agriculture significantly. Across North America, the wildfires, the combination of wildfires on one hand, flooding on the other hand, and the various impacts of climate change. For example, some things that we don't think about. Trinidad is a grain importing country. We depend on North America for our grain supplies, but the wildfires in British Columbia, which is on the west coast of Canada, has caused the trains that transport grain from Western Canada, predominantly the area of Calgary, Saskatchewan. Those trains have been idle because of the wildfires. They've not been able to transport the grain. So that translates into shortages, 1, delays, 2, price increases, because if your cost of transport becomes higher, it's going to be passed on to the consumer at some point. So across the board, across the world, what we're seeing today, as we've seen historically, is that a number of factors go into the ability to feed ourselves, the ability to grow in terms of soil conditions, pests and diseases, availability of plant material, technology, labor, transport, shipping. included, and all those factors. So today in Trinidad, last night, we had the onset around 9 p.m. of a significant weather system which comes after either in North America. But this weather system, which is affecting us now, is one of about 8 weather systems. Larry is the next one that will affect our part of the world. And right away from last night, as it translates into what happens on the ground, we have a project, Veggie Box Project, which started in May. This round of it, the third round, started in May to distribute fresh fruit, vegetables, and locally produced chickens to 125 families, 1,000 families across the country. We've been doing very well. It's a 5-month program. And at the end of the 4th month in August, we completed 146,000 deliveries, which is way above our target. And we expected to close off at around 175,000 families over the 5-month period. But right away, once we have the onset of this type of weather, I've already seen images from Plomita, which is an important provider of produce to the program, being severely hit again. They were hit last week, and they've been hit again by the rain, the flooding that will ensue in some parts of the country. And even after the flood subsides, the moist conditions, muddy conditions will promote the growth of fungus on some of the plants, especially the ones that bear close to the ground, like the tomatoes and cucumbers, for example. So that the present scenario in the world is indicative of what has happened over time, but has become far more urgent now. And it's not just our ability to feed ourselves into the future, but it's our ability to feed ourselves right now. And at the start of the COVID lockdown in March 2020, there was talk in Trinidad and Tobago about gluts on the one side and starvation on the other side. And I must say, in tribute to our farmers and other food producers in the country, but in particular, the declaration of agriculture as an essential service meant that we were able to keep the farmers going, the markets operational, the imports into the country of critical agriculture supplies, the provision of support in terms of foreign exchange. And we've not seen across the country, we've not seen shortages in terms of primary produce, agriculture produce. We've seen significant supplies on account of favorable weather conditions, particularly last year into this year, the absence of any major flooding, and other factors which have led to, I wouldn't say excess production, but steady production, which have moderated prices, except for the seasonal things like tomatoes, which had a spike, and from time to time we do in fact have increases depending on where you buy. But by and large, unlike other parts of the world, the FAO, the UN estimates that global food prices in the basket that they use have increased by 31% year on year. So we've not seen that. Maybe we've seen that on the imported side, but on the primary production side, we've not seen these price increases. I think we've done very well. The other aspect I want to talk about, and Alpha introduced it, I never talk about agriculture without talking about healthy eating, wellness, and nutrition. I think this is a niche that young people need to get into. And I agree with Alpha when he says the people Alpha talks to and the people I talk to are young persons who are interested. A lot of them are part of farming families. Like I came from a farming family, Alpha came from one. Many of you have connections in farming families. The ones in farming families are highly motivated. They have challenges, and the new ones are going to come in. But at the heart of it is really falling, and I say falling in love with food, and it comes down to the second part of what I would say deals with individual responsibilities. Young people have a brilliant opportunity to lead the way in terms of turning back what has happened over 4 decades in the country, in terms of unhealthy eating, in terms of consumption of imported content, highly processed food and processed food, the way our diets have changed, the lack of interest in eating what we should be eating and not what we feel to eat. I think young people have a significant role to play in that, and in producing the things that should be consumed in the forms and in the quantities that should be consumed, using more climate protected technology, using places that are safer and less likely to be flooded, and also I want to close on this point. Using the support, one of the young persons who spoke in the videos has talked about the grants and more grants. Well, even the grants that we have now are not being utilized. I've made the point that we have this 100,000 grant that is available. It was launched on October 1st, 2018. A lot of the applications, over 1,000 applications, I've gone through many of them myself, are quite deficient, have not provided the sort of information we need. We've gone through a process of trying to get those applications improved, but I'm still not seeing sufficient applications from young persons, particularly those who want to use technology, want to use new farming methods, who want to develop the brands that they may have already. I see a lot of activity in the farmers market. That is a place where I see young people in agriculture, but I would really like that more young persons come and utilize the grants. Information are on the ministry's website on the agri incentive. There's this particular product. The application is filled out, it's placed in the boxes provided at the Agricultural Development Bank, and we go through an evaluation process that includes a site visit and discussions with the applicant, and then we make the decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very, very much, Senator Clarence Rambrat. Always appreciate your presentations and your truthfulness in sharing the reality of the agricultural sector on the ground, interesting enough, one of the points that you raised there about prices and regarding the climatic conditions and stuff that are affecting us. Last week, 2 weeks ago, a bundle of scythe was $35–40. And what people may not understand is how the weather conditions that affect these prices as well too. Presently, a scythe is almost $170, $150 a bundle of scythe, So these are the reality of things on the ground. And people are glad that we can have this forum to share and make people more aware as to some of the things that affects some of these prices and etc. Right? All right, so at this time, I want to go over to Mr. Christian Young-Sing, who would share with us his presentation regarding the future of agriculture. Over to you, Christian.
Hi, Alpha. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning. A special good morning to Mr. Arjun and the whole team of heroes, to Ria, to the Senator, Mr. Rambrat, and most importantly, the youth participants taking part in this amazing initiative. It is an absolute honor to be part of this panel to talk about agriculture and to help inspire our youth to enter the industry. But my hope is not only to inspire you to enter the industry, but to be able to give some ideas on how to enter with the right mindset for success. I'll give you a quick background on what I did. I was trained in aquaculture, which is fish farming. I did that in British Columbia in Canada. Then I came back to Trinidad and worked at the Institute of Marine Affairs for a while with recirculating tilapia farming technology. Then I started up my own fish farm, but what that was is a transition from then realizing that aquaculture wasn't really where I could be financially viable. So we transitioned then to what we call aquaponics, using the fish and the fish waste to produce plants. And then again, due to economic factors, we transitioned over to hydroponics. Which you see behind me is a indoor project that we are now finishing up. Multi-tiered hydroponic growing, the same arugula that Mr. Arjun seems to like. So that's a little background on me. The company is Crisp. We do a couple of products and we sell in the groceries, and we also sell in the restaurants. We supply a good bit of restaurants. So basically, what I wanted to chat with you all about agriculture as a minister, and Alpha was talking about how important it is to the country as a whole, especially with the situation with Forex. And we do have a waning of some of the young farmers coming into the sector actually producing. Alpha said that there are a lot of people interested, but I think that there probably is a hesitancy based on not knowing some integral information that you may require as a young farmer to enter confidently. So what I really want to chat with you guys about is trying to get a mindset to maybe chat with you also about the types of systems that they have, what you may have to do when you are trying to evaluate markets. That might be far down the road for some of you, but I just want you to get thinking, because at the end of the day, if you're going to have a successful farm, it really has to be a business. It is a business at the end of the day. So you will be a businessman or a businesswoman as you enter, and you have to be thinking in this way to really succeed. So you would have to in Trinidad, it's not that easy to find market data and those sort of things. So some footwork is required. You know, you're gonna have to go and check out groceries, see what sells, talk to people when you go to the market, see what's moving, what the people want, where does the demand for certain crops reside. So then you'll evaluate that, and you'll end up with a short list of crops that you may be interested in growing. I am a big advocate for trying on a small scale. That's what I did, and it really was a gradual step thing to where I am right now. So I love if what you take away from this as well is to try to really get your hands dirty, try these crops that you're interested in, and see how you learn about the certain crops. You learn what certain plants like certain environmental conditions. So once you get your hands dirty, then you can then start to get a feel. That passion starts to grow, like what Senator Rambarat was talking about. It's really a passion. And then you start building in that business mindset of how am I going to turn this into a business. So some of the key things now, especially with climate change, and we're talking about different types of systems, you're looking to try and mitigate some of the risk that you may have. Like last night, we had a very strong wind event that can do damage to certain crops if you have too much rain, flooding. So again, like what Mr. Rambarat was talking about, you may look to do or build out your farm in a climate control indoor system, like what I have here behind me. Or you may decide to stay in field crops, but you may want to use certain technology where there's fertigation, not just irrigation. So you send water to the plants directly where the roots are, and that's what you feed your crops in a precise way. Covers your costs, reduce your cost, sorry. And sometimes these technologies are really, really integral to a successful farm. There's pros and cons to each. I invite you to definitely ask me about them in the discussion. I would gladly chat about them. But each farm, each crop is different. Don't think one is just going to be the be all and end all. It really is something that you have to think about, and then you'll make this decision of, okay, this system, I've vetted it, I've done my research, and the system is best for growing what I want to grow. And just to close, I wanted to say, yes, there are a lot of grants. I have accessed a grant in the past, and the grants reimbursement on equipment and those sort of things. I think that you all should definitely look at applying for these grants. It will help you significantly, especially in your stage growth, once you identify what you want to do. And these grants could really help you. But I do think that for the government, I think they need to provide some amenities for farmers, young farmers and old farmers. We need land, water, electricity for modern farming. And a lot of the state lands do not allow this at this time. So I think it's something we should discuss. But again, thank you for having me here, and I look forward to chatting with you in the discussion.
Thank you very, very much, Christian. I love the fact that you encourage persons to find their niche, whether it may be indoor agriculture or outdoor agriculture. Sometimes I feel so hurt when people come and say, we must only focus on indoor. I love to be in my dashing bush patch. I love to get my foot stick in the mud and get dirty, So so I think it's finding what you love and which aspect of the agriculture, and if it's primary production, of course, we know there's so much opportunities along the value chain, which I think we will dive a little bit into as the conversation progresses. So thanks a lot for that, Christian. At this time, I want to introduce our female panelist for today, none other than Miss Ria King Julian, who's a dear friend of mine and a powerhouse in the sector at the moment. Doing great things. So over to you, Ria.
All right. Happy Friday, everyone. We're here to talk about the future, but what is the future without discussing first the present, right? And even backtracking a little bit and touching on our past, right? So, I saw your presentation. The presentation was excellent. Excellent. I really, really loved it. And I feel more secure that Trinidad's future is in really good hands, right? But just to touch on a few things that I feel like we can all remember going forward, right, about our past. And, let's kind of play on Ziggy Marley for a bit. I'm not sure how many of you know this song, but it really, really touches my soul when I hear it. Tomorrow, people, where is your past? Right? Tomorrow, people, how long will you last? Right? So let's go to slide 1. Right? What we can do, we can envisage Trinidad as a germinated plant. And of course, what is an agriculture form without actually seeing a plant, right? So for those who don't, not familiar with this plant, this is actually turmeric, right? So you could imagine Trinidad like this germinated plant, right? These are the roots, right? As a nation, right? As a people, where are our roots planted, right? And these are just musings, these are just reflections, these are things to just think about as you proceed, as I go forth into the present, into the future, right? But where are we rooted? Where are you rooted? Is the soil that Trinidad is rooted in, right? Does it have deep roots? Can it afford us a deep-rooted plant? Because of course, any strong wind is going to blow over a shallow-rooted plant. So is Trinidad deeply rooted, and what are we rooted in, right? Are we watering our plant? Because of course, if it's a plant, it does need the water, the sunlight, the air. It needs the love too, right? So this developing plant, are we giving it what it needs in order to bear good fruit, right? These things are important. If we don't know the answers to these questions, right, then how are we supposed to identify a way forward, right? How can we know that the charted course is our own, or is it someone else's? So it's only really when we know our true values, our core values, can we really step forward into, let's say, even the present or even the future, knowing for sure that we have our integrity intact as a people and as a nation, right? So next slide. Right, so we speak about climate change, lots of studies, lots of scientists, lots of data available on climate change. But there's so many things that are changing in our climate, and it's not just about the weather, right? The politics and the legal climate is changing. The government and the government's will is changing. For those who are aware, Trinidad is very deeply seated in the oil and gas industry. We've had it for years, decades, right? But due to studies and that kind of stuff, we are realizing, and even the global market when it comes to oil and gas and the sensitivity of not using renewable resources in terms of energy, we are making that shift, right? We are realizing that the shift is necessary, right? From the use of non-renewable to renewable sources of energy, right? And of course, with that shift is also coming a diversification of our economy. And of course, that government thrust, that government will to look into other ways to diversify outside of oil and gas. So, we're here today to talk about agriculture, and this is more or less why we're doing so today, because there has been that climatic shift when it comes to that government will and that politics and the legal framework around it, right? Of course, there's so much work to be done in there, but at least the shift is happening, right? Another area that we can talk about is health. So many people are becoming a lot more health conscious. What am I putting in my body? Is it genetically modified? People throw around words like heirloom and non-heirloom. I'm looking for non-GMO seeds. I'm looking for heirloom seeds. For those who are not familiar with those terms, it's really seeds that haven't really been messed with. What I say is that it's seeds where it's actually seeds that can be grown in the environment that is local, as opposed to, let's say, foreign seeds. For those who've ever tried their hands at these exotic plants, GMO type seeds, it's a little bit difficult. But if you get a parent plant, if you get an heirloom seed, it's a lot more easier, right? And it's actually a plant whose parents, grandparents, and that kind of thing have evolved with the time of the country, right? So again, that shift in awareness from what we have been using before to what have we been using, what are we using now, right? That sustainability aspect is also coming to light. The health aspect is coming to light, right? That social shift, for those who are, who remember the days of slavery, right? It may not be you directly in terms of physical slavery, but your grandparents, your great-grandparents' youth, they were exposed to these things, right? And agriculture was seen as a kind of a slave thing, right? A poor man's job, right? But COVID literally blew that idea out of the water. I saw nearly everyone trying to plant something at home, even if it was just some scythe, right? You did see that shift in person seeing agriculture, that it wasn't slavery anymore. It was about, can I feed myself? Can I survive, right? And again, even though the impetus and the catalyst was fear, that is a stepping stone. Fear does, you can't use fear as a stepping stone into courage. So that's fine, right? Now, of course, one of the biggest sort of climate changes that we've had is in the area of technology, right? In terms of, we're shifting from an age of poor data collection, poor networking. I would even say areas that that are more or less traditional agriculture that tends to flood and that kind of stuff. And technologies has made so many different advances in terms of being done in urban areas now, where we have the hydroponics, the aquaponics. So of course it's above ground, so you can do it on concrete, grow boxes, raised beds, not raised beds, but grow boxes, container planting. For those who live in the concrete jungle like myself, a container, you have a 5-gallon tomato plant, you can grow it in there. You don't need the 10 acres of land like before. So, that technology is not just about something you could plug in or something connected to solar, but literally any innovation that can flow with the changing times, right? So of course we have digitization happening. We have use of so many different things, but I would add a bit of a care here, right? Earth does provide, right? Earth can provide, and we have to look at a lot of these technologies in terms of sustainability. Are we digging ourselves into a deeper hole, right? Literally, something could only be considered sustainable if it is based on sustainable resources, right? If, let's say, for instance, you have to create, something like a solar panel. There, I said it, right? A solar panel. What does it take? What are the raw materials necessary to produce a solar panel? Yes, solar technology and solar energy can be considered renewable because, of course, it uses the sun. But what about the equipment used to create the solar panel in the first place? So are you taking with one hand and giving with the next? Is it a balanced equation? These are questions that you have to constantly ask yourself when you consider something green. It may not necessarily be green, right? So again, that discerning spirit is necessary use when you're trying to make decisions about, what Trinidad should look like in the future, right? And of course, in terms of economy, farmers came to the forefront. Farmers literally were considered essential before. Yes, you knew farmers existed, right? But farmers literally came to the forefront. Yes, with the medical workers, but also the farmers, in terms of considered essential. They were allowed to do what they needed to do. And we need to seriously sit down and think, yes, doctors are important. Yes, lawyers are important. Yes, accountants are important. But if you do not set up a life that you can sustain yourself, then are you living in a world of illusion? Right? Now, I'm not saying don't, go out and purchase things. That's fine. But at the end of the day, can it be sustained? Right? Can you start at home and do something simple? Yes, we talk about the government. The government needs to do this and the government needs to do that. But what can you do at home? What can you start around the house? There's so many upcycling and do-it-yourself things that you can look up on the YouTube video. And yes, the Sunbeam is producing about 12 how-to videos right now on things that you could literally use around the house to grow your own food, right? It's really, really simple. Things that we throw away from the fridge, things that we have in the crisper and we just dump. Those things can be used, right? So yes, the grants are important, but literally it starts with you. It starts with that passion. It starts with that seed planted within self that I want to be self-sustaining. All right, the government is there to help, yes, but it's there to help someone who's already helping themselves. All right. So, like in terms of next slide. So again, we learn from the past, we watch the present. So I've just explained what the climate is doing in terms of shifting. But what can we do? What can you all do as youth to encourage these shifts? Now, the things could shift all over the place. We need to have focus shifting, right? So what can we do to really create a future that we can all be proud of? That Trinidad could truly say, you know what, I am deeply rooted and I have produced a branch called agriculture that is bearing good fruit. All right, what can we do? In terms of the political and legal arena, the government, the last time I checked, I'm not sure if the senator could tell me otherwise, but the government is not mind readers. They do not read our minds, right? Advocacy, right? Speak. You have a voice. God gave you a very wonderful voice. Tell us what it is you want. Tell the government. Get together in your groups, whether it be school groups, whether it be community groups. Tell the government what it is you want. And again, start it within your own community. The government is not the only people with money. And the thing is, they use your money, right? So get together, community group. Start doing something yourself. Let's say, for instance, a community garden, right? In terms of environmental things like seed banks, creating a seed bank is important. Heirloom seeds are necessary. The foundation of the agriculture is based on having good seeds. We need to have good seeds. Heirloom seeds. Now, this is something that the government can implement in terms of policies, right? Having, some sort of structure to ensure that we get good seeds, have good seeds, heirloom seeds, right? Composting programs. I'm sure all of you live in communities that grass is cut by CPEP. Every single community, right? What is happening with that grass? Can we set up community groups led by the youth that can actually compost that, generate fertilizer, and tend to their own community garden? Why not? We have so many vacant lots around Trinidad and Tobago. Why not have one of the lots in every community? We have our composting running because we have the grass coming from CPEP, right? We have the seeds coming in. Maybe we could set up some greenhouses. Again, it does not have to be fancy, right? We have some training. There's so many Y Farm trains, the Sunbeam Foundation trains. There's so many trains, the Ministry of Agriculture trains. There's so many things that could happen in terms of training. So you get your training, you have your land set up in terms of the community spaces, and you plant. So now you're saying, well, Howard, I am self-sustaining, and a community that really works together can do anything, right? So I kind of want to just maybe wrap up there. Literally, I feel like if the age of technology is fantastic, but again, it is just a tool, and it can be used to hit you over the head, or it can be used to build a house. So it's up to you how you use it, right? Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very, very, very much, Ria. So much food for thought there. And I absolutely love that we shouldn't be encouraging persons to start. Sometimes people then start to plant a corn seed yet, but they're currently what government grant. I start doing something and let people see that you are really interested and then take it forward. I mean, that's one of the things I loved about what you said amongst so much others, Ria. Thank you very, very much. Right? So the time winding down and we trying to meet it at the hour. We might have to go a little over, but not too much. So at this point in time, I want to invite our guest from Digicel, Mr. Bernardo Fabriga. So the floor is yours, sir. Take it over. Just unmute. Unmute your mic and start.
Sorry, guys. So, hello everyone again. So I'm gonna pass through the journey of why technology will help farming, agriculture. Okay, so technology, first of all, is an enabler. So technology is not here to replace people, it's to help people. So we are seeing now new degrees and specialties in agriculture and technology, and agriculture combined with technology. So it's not that we're gonna get the Robocops to take over farming. Okay, so what in this journey I'm gonna show you what and why and how are we doing it. Okay, first of all, let me start with IoT or Internet of Things. So I saw on the video that we showed at the beginning of the presentations, cameras on farming. What we say, why do you need a camera on a farm? Well, actually, it's a very good idea, and I will put something else. It's not only cameras, it is cameras, it is sensors, it's collecting data and information to understand what is happening in your farm and make it in real time and make decisions on the spot, not wait until something happens and then your crops are destroyed and now you need to start over. So all of this data that we can collect using IoT, now we can transform into information. Using artificial intelligence, you can make decisions on the spot also, like examples. So it is a very hot day in the summer and you need to start putting more water into the plants. Instead of waiting until their normal hours, you can put 2 or 3 hours on the fly without waiting for someone to manually do it. Okay, now this not only applies for things like water, but it could be for collecting crops, it could be for managing pesticide. It could be for anything that can be done automatically based on information that we can get. Okay, now what else? So now we got all this information here collected. Now we start making decisions, reporting tools, data we can use and share, collect and compare with someone else. What and why Trinidad is different from Panama? Maybe because the soil is different, maybe because the weather conditions are different. All of these data, we have it, and it's not only data that we have from the past, it could be information that we can have in real time. And finally, and not more important, we have how do we get from seed to sales? So how do we get farmers to be able to not only have their crops and try to sell them, but be probably an option to sell directly. Okay, tools like helping building portals or helping to have payment platforms for farmers. All of these things that we could do and technology can help will help farmers to not only depend on what they do, but also control their future. Okay, so I'm gonna now turn it on to a small video. This video is not specifically for farming, but it's what technology does in a city. So if you can relate and you can transfer from a city to a farm, you will see all the things that we could do and help in agriculture. So could you please put it on the video, please?
Orchestrating a Brighter World, NEC.
All right. Thank you very much, Bernardo. I hope the youths are inspired by that video and put it into perspective into the agricultural sector. So much there that could benefit us. So at this time we had our major presentations, and now we wanna, I would say, dive a little bit into some conversation. We might have a bit of like 10 minutes remaining, so we will make it quick yet very impactful. So I want to start with asking our youth participants. I want to bring you all onto the mic. This forum is for you. I want you all to share with us. What have you heard thus far that lines up with your future? What have you heard thus far that is really inspiring, and you didn't think about it that way, and you want to shed some light on us, or maybe you want to ask some of the other panelists some more in-depth questions. So over to you all. Caleb, you want to go, or Hadara? Any one of you could take the mic.
I'll give it to Hadara first, and then I'll jump in after.
So over to you, Hadara. Unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I took away a lot from hearing what everyone on the panel had to say. It was a learning experience for me, lots of stuff. But everyone said amazing things, but something that stood out to me is what Mr. Christian Young Singh said, is having the mindset of getting into agriculture and really pushing yourself and being motivated and trying to get into this type of thing, into this part of it. And for a question about the pros and cons that you said you wanted to discuss.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the pros and cons that I was talking about systems. Is that what you would like to know? About different types of systems? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes? Well, again, like what Alpha has been talking about before, there are different ways to approach farming. It's so many different approaches. Because if you wanted to grow cassava, let's say, we aren't going to put that into a closed environment system. The capital cost, it would cost too much to build because they're dealing with large plants. So maybe you'd be drawn towards maybe a drip irrigation system outdoors, because cassava would take fields, and fields would then require, you'd use the drip irrigation to give the plant just the amount of water it needs so that it doesn't require too much water, because that's one thing with feed agriculture, that it uses a lot of water if you don't use the technology. So that's a technology, a tool in the toolbox, as Rhea said as well, that you can use to reduce your water consumption. You can use what I have here. This is what I'm building out as a closed system, and it's because I can stack it. I can get more square foot yield, and I'm growing a leafy green. So again, it's really specific to the crop you want to grow. Hope that helps.
All right. So thank you very much, Hadara.
And Miss, yeah.
Oh, so you have another question, Hadara? Please go ahead.
Not a question, but it was very insightful to what Miss Rhea had to say about the values in agriculture, and that was a lesson learned there for me. Thank you.
All right, great. Over to you, Caleb.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sanon. Good morning, everyone. To everyone in the panel today. Well, I took down some notes. I could not remember all that information off the top of my head, and that's a good thing, So first, I would like to address what you said, Mr. Alpha, with saying that in climate change, we have to address of what is going on and be aware, be conscious, and understand what is going on, especially in the agriculture sector. Not only even in climate change, but when disasters happen, like for instance, when the volcano erupted, and and all these things and produced was even hotter for Trinidad as the import a lot of stuff from St. Vincent and all these places, you know. So it's you really hitting my keys and says like, yes, these are stuff that people need to be aware of, and I think there is not enough information in terms of what happens in the agriculture sector, in terms of how things are affected, how things change, how things will get better, how things will get worse. Sometimes, like, you know, simple things like the moon, you know, and how these things just simply could affect the season, you know. And as the senator said, but I know he dropped off, but I think he'll be back shortly. With grants, you know, saying that. But I would like to ask that like, well, I guess I'll just come back in terms of grants. Like, I hear that there are 7,000 grants, and I would like to ask, like, which are the grants are being most used? Like, and if so, what grants can we like drop off, and what grants can we like rise up and increase, to, you know, to make sure that everybody's getting what they need. Ms. King Julian, I took a lot of notes from you. You gave a lot of information. So, like, for example, no, I dropped over Mr. Singh, sorry. So, Mr. Singh, I heard you speak about trying small things, as you know, because even when I was home in quarantine and whatever, I tried something. I tried growing a grapefruit tree. Wasn't too successful with that. You know, and trying different crops. I know you spoke about like all crops are not the same. So, like, for instance, I didn't even know bananas are like a clone plant, and how these are ravishing certain plantations, how they are breaking down. So, like, just because of one banana and how it was a clone in terms of the tree. So I was like, wow, you know, and all this information that I don't think people are really aware of and don't know that the change is happening. Also, yes, I tried like a strawberry plant. I didn't know like you could grow it in the tropics, and I was like really interested on how to find out. I know this is offloading questions, but hold on, Miss King Julian, when you said we are shifting more to agriculture, you know, and I said, yeah, you're right, because and what the impact of even in a social economic environment in terms of people with slavery, you know, is a trigger back to that place, you know, and people say, oh, but you going back to that plantation days or whatever, you know, it's something to really think about. And also like we also have to remember like the equality part, and I like this year's foundation for that is like everything is connected, you know. It's like filters of equality, like even remember like some people got more land and actually was reparations for what happened to them, and then some people didn't get, and all these things that would have been spoken about in homes, but not really broadcast and bring to the forefront, you know, and all these things that, you know, we should be speaking about. And as you say that the government is not, they are not mind readers, so we have to tell them. So I realized something in this pandemic is that Trinidadians need to go back to social studies. You know, we just run down our MP. I was like, hey, I'm on road, I have a pothole in my road, and you know, you're supposed to be good for a counselor for these things, you know, and it's a reflective thing to realize, whoa, we have some issues in our society that we need to fix in terms of even education. You see how everything ties back into just this one thing. So it's a really holistic approach to get where we need to be. What other thing? Yes, youth. But it is saying that youth needs to come out to help. Well, I say I can qualify as a youth. Yeah, of course. And one thing I realize is that yes, there are some people who say that we are interested in agriculture, but when you really look at it, are we really putting it into practice, and what are we really growing for agriculture? You know, sometimes in a cabbage or whatever, but you know, and all these things we need to be looking at. Like for instance, I took a trip to Tobago a while back, well before everything locked down and whatever, and I was at a beach house and I said I need to pull seed. You know, usually when Trinidadians go over to Tobago, they be like, as a tourist too, but not forgetting that's your sister island. So, you know, you have to have like kind of cultural heritage to link with it. And I really was appreciated that when I went down on the beach on the early morning, right? I was surprised to see that there wasn't a lot of youth there. It was mainly senior men, not even like mid-30s, but senior men, old men, pulling net. And I asked, I was like, sir, sorry, rocking back, why aren't they people in my generation, pulling seeing everything? He watched me. Your generation, they what less? I was like, whoa. And it hit my back, So it's really, but what you could say more after that, I think we are growing away from our traditions like pulling seed and harvest and growing up and helping your father in the garden or whatever. If you grew up in an agricultural family or whatever, So and all these things are really important that we are straying away as a society and even as a people. And one more thing, technology, Mr. Fabrega, there are some questions here that were in the were in the
In the chat.
yeah, in the chat, and it was saying how can we make sure that technology does not remove employment opportunities for farmers, laborers, fish folk, especially those who live in the farming and fishing villages? That's also a big thing. And the
Yeah.
last thing is that when you say about technology, and I did not know that you could use fungus. Like there was a fungus that I can't remember the name of the fungus right now, but it's actually is a small fungus. And what they did was they mapped out, like put little boards filled with the fungus, could create a panel, well, a line or a reed to get it. And what they did is that when they left it and just left it for about 30 days or whatever, when they realized that it mapped out a very effective map of the Tokyo railway system that is so similar to these railway systems that took hundreds of years. So, like certain things that if we are aware of and how technology can be used, but even like the agriculture itself, it's a big thing. So I know I offloaded a lot of questions with you.
No, don't worry. Totally. First of all,
wait,
first of
Mr.
all,
Harbour, you can go first, no problem.
yeah, can you hear me okay? Okay, so first
Yes,
of all,
we are hearing
like I
you.
said before, perfect. Technology, like I said before, is an enabler. It will never replace people, okay? It will help people. Actually, what you're doing with technology is bringing more people into agriculture because so you will still have the people that manage it, the crops that go on fishing, but you have people like engineers that will help design a better system for managing your crops, or you will have internet connected into the farm to have those video cameras. So you have more people, more jobs, but those will be focused on the technology portion of the agriculture. So no, definitely technology is just an enabler. Will never replace people.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Caleb. You offloaded a lot on us. You give a nice synopsis of the entire panel discussion, a nice I would say overview. Right. One of the questions I know you raised, I believe Senator Ramrad may have came on at that same point in time. I don't know if he got it. I know you asked if about the grants. If what was it? Which one is the most which grants are being used the most? That's the question he was going to ask him. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I was asking like what grants we're using most and how can we shape the system better in terms of getting grants to people who really need it and what the people actually need. How are we meeting the needs of the people in terms of what the government is giving out?
Right.
All right.
I never came off. I've always been on. So I heard everything. I just want to go back to what Alpha said. Plant. A lot of people come to me, including young persons, and they want 5 acres or 10 acres of land. So they come with a land request, and I ask them one question, which is, what have you planted? Have you planted something in a pot at home? The answer is generally no, because people feel that they get land and then you get into agriculture. Agriculture is either in you or it gets in you, and you must have a love for food, you must have a passion for food, but you must also appreciate the need for the relationship between food, fresh fruits and vegetables, most likely locally produced, and health, wellness, and longevity. So it's not just a matter of getting land. Now, on the grant side, the one grant I want you to know about is the 100,000 Agri Incentive Grant, because what I've tried to do, we have a lot of we have a lot of different incentives and subsidies in the ministry. A lot of it is geared towards existing farmers. In some cases, you have to spend and get a reimbursement that is particularly on the equipment and vehicles side of it. And in some cases, you get it at the point of purchase, which means that the item does not attract duty on importation and it does not attract VAT and other taxes on importation. So, but a lot of these things do not reward people who actually produce or people who actually perform. And that is why the new agri incentive was designed. And it is not linked to land, but it is linked to a project and the viability of that project. And in that way, it is for existing farmers and for new entrants. It is not on the primary production side in terms of buying seeds and seedlings and so on. It is on the more on the technology, more on the branding, the packaging, the labor-saving devices, the technology, the farm safety in terms of physical safety, cameras, the solar, the use of solar, alternative energy, those things rather than the traditional things that are covered under the agriculture incentives and subsidies. So I encourage you to go on the ministry's website and read the document. It's quite understandable. It's a simple process to follow. And surprisingly, as I said, maybe 90 or more % of the applicants fail to provide even the most basic information for us to make a decision.
Thank you, Senator Amarat. I want to pass it quickly over to Ria.
Yeah, hi. I just have two questions. One is directed purely at the senator. In terms of how easy is it for, let's say, communities to access vacant lots in their actual community to do community gardens? So that's my first question. And the next question is those that are, I would say, touting, for want of a better word, like technology in terms of digitization and computerization as a way forward. Are they also looking at it within context of, for instance, climate change that is happening in Trinidad and in the region right now, where literally, and I'm sure all y'all can attest to this, when there's a heavy wind or heavy rain, the first thing to go is electricity and the internet, right? So what I'm saying, like, how are we putting things in place, contingencies to cater for those typical cultural things that happen in Trinidad when we're trying to move forward into this more technological age, right? So those are my two questions. The second one was for anyone. The first question was for the senator.
Right. So, Ria, in your presentation, you made quite a few valid points, and the takeaway from me is something I say all the time. A lot of people talk but don't act. We grab onto the. I get videos of YouTube every day from people from things happening in Holland and Singapore, in North America, and I say to them, what are you doing here? And the most important thing you could do, you don't have to plant anything, the most important thing you could do is to go to a market and support your local food producers. That's the most important thing you can do. And when you do that, you support a farmer, you support a farming family, you support a farming community. But most importantly, you're giving yourself access to cheap, I still say cheap, nutritious produce that will help you in terms of long-term health and wellness. In terms of, we talk about technology, and the point I always make about technology is that farmers have always been using technology. Let us start off with the basic farming implements, which was the technology of the day, and the farmers have evolved. I know very mature farmers who order online, who get stuff off Amazon, who get shipments out of China and Italy and those things. So the technology is nothing new to the farmers. What the technology that has to be adapted is the one that Bernardo talked about in terms of the sensors, in terms of the technology that allow us to capture data, to track data, to make decisions based on what has happened historically. And livestock farmers, some of them make use of that type of technology. But the thing I want to talk about in relation to young people is this. We've, in terms of climate change, in terms of technology, in terms of young persons, we've talked a lot about greenhouse, for example, and we've seen the value of it. I saw Answer made its public announcement on a project that is underway in Tobago, and that is to develop a climate control facility that allows them to produce for the export market. That has been long in planning. There are quite a few of those that are going to come on stream. A lot of it has been delayed because of COVID in terms of the experts being able to come into the country and the issues with shipping and all of that. But we have approved a few for state land. But the one I'm preparing to take to cabinet is the one that involves young people. I believe that my view has always been, for those of you who followed me, that the state should play a minimal role in the terms of the role of a facilitator and not a direct investor. And the individual's need, which is something all of you have talked about, and I'm happy to hear that. People have to take personal initiative, but in terms of greenhouses, I do not think that young persons could afford to get into it, and I do not think that we have a facility that allows them to do that. But I know our best in terms of long-term development of climate-protected agriculture is via young persons who are familiar with the operation. So I'm preparing to go to cabinet for what I've announced in July or August, somewhere there, the development of 4 greenhouse parks, which are the model is along the one used for the industrial estate. So the way I see it is that we're gonna develop 25 greenhouses on 4 different sites, which is a total of 100 in 4 parts of the country. And we would use that to facilitate not the entry, but used by young people in particular to become familiar, to develop their own income stream via that facility, and also to plant the seed that leads to the proliferation of greenhouses across the country in response to, one, the need for consistent quality, quantity, and the need for specific types of produce that are demanded by the restaurant and supermarket trade in particular. And 3, to protect us from pest diseases and what we've seen and what I've talked about consistently, the real effects of climate change. So that project would hit up quite a few policy points that we need, most importantly, to give that aspect of agriculture that has not really taken off a boost. And we're working with the Chinese government. In fact, I have a meeting on Tuesday morning with the technical team, because we have to be very clear that what we want to use is good for our conditions. A lot of people have failed before, but the technology has improved, and we know that we have systems that are going to work in our conditions. And to answer your question, Ria, and those are all going to be solar powered.
All right, great. Thanks very much, Ria. You want to say something there? Okay. All right. So let me dive over to Christine.
Oh, sorry. Hi. I just had a quick question for Senator Ramrat. So I've been here about 8 years in the agricultural sector. Started outdoors, built a farm up using hydroponics. So we're going from aquaponics to hydroponics based on the feasibility of it. And I was just thinking, I've checked multiple state land, ex-Carney 1975 lots of land, and most of those leases don't allow me, even if I were to purchase them from those holders, they don't allow me to connect to power or to water. Right. They have bound. And I have tried because I want to move out of this place. This is my prototype farm.
My apologies for that. I took note of that comment you made, and I meant to address it. The thing is that, I think Ria and Alpha before Ria made the point, it's not a one size fit all. We've been doing a one size fit all. So the thing about it is that I'm very wary of giving these sorts of approvals, and we end up with townhouses all over these agricultural land. But I would say that, and people who know me know that I work with individuals, not with farming groups and not with people who talk, so that something like that could come to me as a project, and on an individual basis we'll provide the support, and then the 100,000 is also available for that. I just gave in early August, I think, early August, we gave a 100,000 grant to a young man in Cunupia for a greenhouse project. For hydroponics, we've given grants, and where you have identified a parcel that is transferable to you, because the plots are transferable. It's just that they cannot change the lease. We will give favorable consideration for a hydroponic project or a project that requires the use of access to electricity and water. The thing about it is that if the infrastructure is not there, it would mean having to get the infrastructure to the site. So let us connect with me. I'm easy to find. I'm easy to find via Facebook. Send me a message, connect with me, and we'd follow it up.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you very, very much. So at this time, I wanna, I know we have overstayed our time, and I was saying that, I feel agriculture needed like a good 2 hours, but I know the forum has to go on after lunch, etc. So I want to invite panelists to maybe in 30 seconds. I did say 1 minute, but I know time is running out. So let's give those brief closing remarks. Maybe add in a bit of what is the one thing you want these young people to take away and to go and actually act, to go and do, in action form, literally do, right? So I will start with Christian.
Okay, well, basically just 2 things. One thing, I want you to start to plan. So I want you to try something, just like Caleb tried, and I try, everybody young, try, get your hands dirty, and you'll start gaining knowledge about the growing process. Number 2, I want you to always refine your process. Your process is important as a farmer. You make a mistake, always refine it. You can always do better. And that way, you will end up with a very organized process at the end of it, where you could run a successful farm.
All right, great. Well, Ria had to leave, but she left one comment that she wanted me to share. She said that part of food security is growing a full meal, not just growing for good business. She said she heard that a strawberry farm is being set up, but yet there's still rice being imported. So she left some food for thought there. All right, thanks a lot, Ria. Thanks a lot, Christian. Over to Bernardo. Closing comments.
Yes, hi. So for technology, the wheel has already been invented. The information is out there, guys. So the internet has all the information that you need. You can go and look in Google for absolutely everything. And if you don't, come to the ISEL, talk to us. So of course, we have people that are working on this every day. I can share my email address. You can text me, you can email me. Glad to share information.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Bernardo. Senator Rambarat, you want to share with us a quick closing remark?
Yeah, I want to thank the young people for all the positive vibes. Through International Youth Day and through this forum, I've engaged with a lot of you. I am always open. That 100,000 agriculture grant, incentive grant, a lot of tweaking has taken place. I am still open to more ideas. When you look at it, if you feel that something you have is not covered, you could always let me know. And we're also looking, I was expecting to hear somebody ask about beyond 100,000. We want to give out more of the 100,000 grants before we look at increasing it. But I have already acknowledged that there will be projects that are good projects that we need, and will have to be funded in excess of 100,000. But I'm asking people to come in for the 100,000 first, and let us take it from there.
Thank you very much, Senator. Thanks for taking your time to be here with us and stay with us as well too. I want to see if Hadara or Caleb have any closing remarks to share on all that we spoke about today in 30 seconds or so. Go ahead, Hadara.
Sure. With everyone on the panel, again, everything was insightful. Things that I have not learned before, I've learned, and I took it away with a learned perspective from this. And I'm really glad that we have the voice that we can have these conversations, and hopefully in the future as well, we have more conversations like these for the best of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb.
Okay, well, Michael's remarks would be that, we at the Heroes Foundation also had a program called AgroViva, where they would give us seedlings and we would actually do planting and all these things. So, we are doing our part as well. And what I would also say is learn your culture, read the Alamac, and that will be it.
All right, thanks a lot, Caleb. Great insights from both of you. I saw someone posted there in the comments, strawberry pilau. That might be something innovative to hit the markets. You never know, that might be your invention. Caleb shaking here like he ain't gonna try that. But and I also saw someone said too, I guess in their wrap up, to try and fail to try. And I think this day and age, we don't really have to try to fail. I think there's so much inspiration, education, courses, training programs that you try to succeed. But I do get the point though that rather than just sitting and then doing nothing at all. So my closing remarks would be, find that eye in your idea, and that you in your uniqueness to really bring forth to the agribusiness sector to create that future that you need. And remember, that future is not 2050, that future is literally tomorrow. So you have to start today. So at this point in time, I want to say thank you very much for all the panelists, all my colleagues that shared, and I think we had a really successful session. So it's an honor to have moderated this session with you all today. Definitely do stay safe. Keep dry as much as possible. I hear there might be more and more rains and winds as well too. So stay safe. And I'll pass it over to Lawrence at this point in time. Thank you very much.
Mike. I clearly have not learned how to unmute my mic. I apologize for that. But thank you, Alpha. Thank you to the panelists for all being a part of the session this morning. It was really great. I mean, we have a Heroes Youth chat, and it's just been blowing up with comments about agriculture. I think the future of Trinidad and Tobago looks very green and ripe and full of potential for agriculture. Thank you for sharing. We're definitely going to have to do a whole day of agriculture discussions next time. Thank you for the panelists for staying on and spending some additional time with us. Folks, we are back at 1:30 exploring arts and culture. So we look forward to seeing you back here at Future Forum. I hope you all took some really good insights. All of the information from today's panel, from all of our panels, are going to be available online. We're going to have our Future Forum report coming out after this. And we're going to keep you posted with what comes out of the ideas and the thoughts that were shared today. So thank you again, everyone. We'll see you at 1:30 for Arts and Culture.